This episode is all about radical transparency and how to use it to thrive.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Luis Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
Maybe you can relate to this. When I was a full-time coach, I found that I had to keep repeating the same things to people over and over and over again, and it got to be kind of draining, and I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing anymore. So what I decided to do was record the things that I had to tell clients over and over and over again. And then I packaged those recordings together and sold them as an online course. If you're interested in creating and selling your own online course, head over to thrivinglaunch.com and I have a free training for you on how to create and make passive income through your own online course. Today, we're sitting down with Ajay Kapoor, the CEO of TouchSource, an Inc. 5000 company.
All right, Thriving Launchers, let's jump into it. AJ, are you ready to launch?
Yes, I am.
So, AJ, one of the things that we were talking about before the show, and it's something that really excites me, especially given my background, having worked with over 500 married couples and then moving into the field of online marketing and social media marketing and content. And it is this, and it's something I've written about recently, so it's just so exciting. Like, how do you maintain transparency, or as you kind of referred to it as this radical honesty or radical transparency? How do you do that at work? Like, I feel uncomfortable thinking about being around employees and all of us practicing this radical honesty, especially as we're trying to scale. How does that work, and what do you even mean by that?
Yeah, so the funny thing about it is it's a lot easier than the alternative. So, I spent decades, and many of our colleagues spent decades in large corporations in which you're constantly trying to remember what message you tell to different people. This is what we're telling this team. This is what we're telling that customer. This is what we're telling that partner. And somewhere outside of all three of those stories is the truth. And so I don't know about you, but it's difficult to keep all those stories in my head. So when we decided to be transparent and radically transparent in a way that we were always telling the full story and the real story, whether it was a team member, a partner, or a customer, it actually just became dramatically easier. You don't have to remember all the stories. You can be honest. You can get that feedback. We actually spent less time focusing in on the politics of something and more time focusing in on the reality and how you deal with it. So it's really helped us focus more on growth rather than hiding or dealing with problems.
I'd love to hear what are some potential backlash, some potential roadblocks that you can run into practicing this.
Yeah, so it's actually hardest with partners, and the reason is because the traditional relationships that we've all created in corporations with other companies has always been based on some degree of aspirations and facades and things like that, rather than dealing with what two partners can really bring to the table. And so the backlash starts out negative and ends up positive because partners are very much surprised when I ask them a direct question like, if we do this, what specifically will you gain from the relationship that I'm not understanding? What specific problem is are you not telling me that we need to be dealing with? And what's funny is it takes a day or a week or sometimes a month for a partner to wrap their head around. There's no motive behind those questions, but really we want to make sure our motives and stuff are completely aligned. And so the backlash ends up being, very short term, but the long term we end up creating much stronger bonds. For employees, It's like being honest with your family. We've, like any company, go through rough patches, and if I'm going to be a good leader for the team, they have to know exactly what I'm dealing with. And so I'm honest with them. And some people, it worries them when we have a problem and they think, the world is going to end and things like that. And so I have to, focus in on action and how do we resolve it. But that's a really good place to be. So I'll tell you, if anyone's heads down this path, the first few months or the first few times doing it is actually kind of scary. But having a transparent environment in the long run just makes it a lot easier.
I love your answer. And as you're sharing this, I actually was reminded of when I used to teach these classes for some government agencies and private donors. And we're talking about multi millions of dollars being spent so that I could facilitate these courses in front of people who had, put a lot of energy and effort to make it to these classes. And I was being compensated very well. I was young to be doing this. I was 24 years old, sitting in front of people that were much older, much more experts than I was. And not only that, on top of that, AJ, it was all in Spanish. And that was part of the reason why I was given this role, is because I could speak Spanish. I knew the material, but I really wasn't at the level. Like most of the people needed to have higher degrees in education. It was just this windfall that I made it into this position. And I'm teaching these classes, and quite often I found myself not understanding everything that people were saying because my Spanish was just not at their level. And so I'm teaching these classes and they might make a statement. It is very serious, like I really need to understand something, and I might just nod my head or laugh at a joke that was saying because other people were laughing, or go, and then ask some kind of question that almost anybody could ask, like a psychic could just throw out. And it's like, oh, what a deep question. And I remember going to this class, or this training that I had, and the guy was talking about how important authenticity is and how that actually makes you an expert. And I never thought of it that way because I was so afraid that experts know everything. Experts are leaders. And when they don't understand or don't know, it's scary to us. And I remember going to this class and somebody said something and I didn't understand it. And I had a breakthrough opportunity. And I said, I really want to confess something. And I want to admit this to you, that I didn't understand what you said, and that is not good for me to relate to you that way. So could you please repeat what you said and maybe use simpler words? And it was this aha moment. Like we both had an opportunity to connect. And not only that, he understood because he also didn't speak the best of English, but was trying. And I feel like that's what you're getting at.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a vulnerability that comes into transparency in a professional environment in which people need to be able to say, I'm not following, or I'm not able to do that, or we have a problem here. And that's not natural, right? Because generally people reward competence and excellence and solving a problem, not recognizing a problem. But I'll tell you, it's a huge asset as we speak to customers, for example, because a customer may have this big broad vision of where they could go and they want to use all this cool tech, and us having expertise in a domain gives us permission to say, not only I'm not sure we understand that, but potentially most importantly, that may not be in your best interest. And to not only to have those two conversations with a customer that says, let's make sure we understand. Usually vendors never want to admit they don't understand a customer. And then the second thing, a vendor telling a customer that may not be a good idea, is another, third rail that people don't cross. But I think once we decided to cross that, and you're explaining with your students, telling them you don't understand and crossing that, you're touching that third rail, it really liberates the conversation. And in those cases where we had those conversations with customers, I'll tell you, it really strengthens the relationship rather than weakens it.
What's something that we could all do to go out and start applying this technique?
What we talk about in our team is when there is first, it's sort of checking in with yourself. Like, when are you holding something back that would be valuable to the discussion? Now, there's a whole lot of stuff we hold back that probably shouldn't be shared and it isn't going to be valuable to the discussion. But when there's something that's going to help change decision, inform people better, help accelerate or decelerate a path, that's where you have to gut check on whether you're holding something back that will move one of those levers. And if that's the case, then don't hold it back. And this doesn't mean, sharing everyone's innermost thoughts whenever you you walk into someone and things like that. But what it does mean is things that could make the company or the customer or the partner more productive, more effective, more solid, should be shared and should be discussed. And the act of sharing it as a recipient of it, you have to celebrate, that somebody was transparent with you on that item as well. So there's two parts of the equation. There's having the gut check on your end on, are you holding something back? And then if you're the recipient of the information, acknowledging, celebrating, and taking action based on that information, not ignoring it.
This concept of, you call it radical transparency or radical honesty, is something that I went pretty deep into. And what I found is that it could be pretty damaging if you're just saying every thought that's coming into your head. And one thing that I really found is it kind? Is it necessary? Making sure that those two things were involved was a really big help for me to be around that. And before we close out, I'd love to hear from you. What's something that you can do to help your team members or your employees or the people around you to start practicing this as well?
Yeah, well, in conjunction that we did this with is we really tried to embrace more self-directed teams that had, the right people engaged and the minimum set of people to do things that could make decisions and drive things rather than having things hierarchical and top down. And being transparent and self-directed were really related to each other. And so the thing that I share with my team is, for everyone, or for most people, they're most fulfilled in their career and their role when they're setting their own agenda and they're driving things in the way that they think they can be most successful. And so being transparent actually helps propel that faster than holding things back. It allows, you to set your own course and set your own vision. I love what you added in terms of, bringing in kindness and is it relevant and things like that into the conversation. And I think that's a good gut check. But for the team members, what I share with them is your career is in your control, and the more transparent you are about not only your day-to-day activities but where you want to go, helps us help you get there. And so it's a little bit of everyday action, but I'll tell you, for us, it's about also leading by example at the senior leadership team and all of us. The more we are candid and transparent, the easier it is for everyone else.
AJ, as somebody who's worked in all different levels of companies, ranging from grunt worker, overnight worker, to senior director, manager, director, one of the things that I absolutely love about this is that you're bringing something that in human relationships helps them thrive. And so why not bring that to work? And I absolutely love that. It's something that Thriving Launchers, I hope that you bring with you today, is bring that authenticity, that vulnerability, or that ability to just be transparent about what's going on in your business or your relationship. I want you to just take a moment to think about some ways that you can add some more of that transparency into your life, and then go out and enact it, whether it's with your boss or an employee, or whether it's with a client or a vendor. Bring this to your life, and I believe that you will have similar results to what we're having here, what TouchSource is having, and all the different possibilities that can open up to you through that. So Thriving Launchers, take that with you, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Keep thriving, y'all.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.